Chief Advisor 양홍님께서 준비를 하고 계시고요. Everything on Chain for Health라는 주제로 말씀해 주시겠습니다. 아마 건강이라는 주제로 블록체인 관련해서 말씀해 주실 것 같아요. 모시도록 하겠습니다. Chief Advisor 양홍. 네, 여러분 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다.
All right. Thank you for this opportunity. Stand here to introduce our company, EOCH. We pronounce this as EOC. Right. So as you will see that it stands for Everything on Chain for Health. So basically, this is our blockchain technology that has been applied in a healthcare industry. In a healthcare industry, it's those like tip of the iceberg. It's those simple problems you will see, but the real problem is actually hiding underneath the water. So the EOCH is trying to solve these problems. So what is EOC? So EOC is basically a patient-oriented public blockchain network, and for the healthcare data sharing and the management. All right. So why do we need it? So because it's able to manage our healthcare assets in an immutable, auditable, and transparent, safe way or secure way. So how do we implement this EOC? So as I've mentioned to you just earlier, it's an integration between the healthcare IT system and also the blockchain technology. So it is an integration between these. So in this slide, we are trying to give you an overview of our primary aim of EOC. So EOC is trying to improve the healthcare information interoperability and the experiences by redistributing the value of personal healthcare data. So what is the purpose? We are trying to accelerate the world's shift to private information decentralization. All right, so this is very important to have this information decentralized. So if you look at this slide, why we choose EOC? In EOC, we are trying to establish a new blockchain-based paradigm for the future of healthcare. And if you look at our data model in the blockchain, it's actually changing. We are trying to change from pay for service to pay for performance. And all these incentives will help to reduce readmission or avoid those medication error or decrease the duplicate testings. So all these can be helped by sharing the patient information. So in this data model, so you will see that all the data, like the patient data, pharmacy, or electronic medical record, all these data will be integrated together. All right, so how we are going to build this EOC? As you will see that this is a network of many blockchains that hierarchically arranged, all right? So it's hierarchically arranged where you will see that many blockchains can run concurrently. So this is the beauty of the blockchain. While it's going to retain the interoperability, in the EOC world, as shown here, the root blockchain manage many independent blockchains or subchains. A subchain connects to or interacts with medical devices, like the Apple Watch I'm wearing, with medical devices that share something in common. All right, they have a similar functional purpose, or they can operate in a similar environment to share similar level of trust. If a subchain mass function is not working, for example, has been attacked or experiencing any software bugs, the root chain is not going to be affected at all. So by doing this, we are able to have this interoperability. We can guarantee confidentiality and security. Here, I'm going to give you how we actually implement the blockchain technology in the healthcare. right? So the blockchain technology is going to help to build the healthcare system. So you will see that the healthcare authorities, governments, they are all excited about the new possibility presented by blockchain, right? So the blockchain enables the health IT system that can provide technological solutions to many challenges. So those challenges including the health data interoperability, integrity, and security, and portability as well. So what are those challenges we actually face in the healthcare industry? So I'll just give you a few highlights. In the following 2 slides, we have listed out the common challenges we face in terms of the data sharing. So in terms of data capturing, it's actually quite tough to capture data that is very clean, very complete, accurate. So this is something we are working on. We are trying to standardize the data so we can capture a more complete data. And also because of the format or standardization, we are able to clean up the data so it can ensure the data sets accurate and consistent. So those are some challenges we are facing now. And then a few more challenges such as your data stewardship, data querying, right? This is very, very important because when you set up a database, you want to have the ability to query the data, right? So if for diabetes, all right, so you must have those keywords for you to easily query the database. Or for a region, what is the region you are looking at? What type of disease you are focusing on? So the data must be query friendly. So another challenges we are facing now is also data exchange. All right, it's very crucial if the data can be shared with external parties. All right. Because as the industry moves towards population health management, so this is very, very important, how you're going to share the data without violating the privacy. So once I have listed out the challenges, so we are going to provide you the solution that EOC has come up with. All right, so I'll give you just the architecture of our EOC. All right, so we do have the high level, all right, so this is a high level of the application, all right, so the EOC provide the smart contracts capability here, and also security authentication capability, and it does have the decentralization transaction, and also it can issue the token cryptocurrencies. So all these actually build the foundation of the distributed apps, all right, so if you look at the middleware, so we have the cross-chain services, API, and some application integrators. So down here, we have different subchains working. So electronic medical record, pharmacy claim, clinical claims, and others. So this is the architecture. So what is our solution for the healthcare information sharing? All right. So if you look at, we do have the 4-dimensional continuum. So if you look at the blockchain, right, I think all of you guys here, probably you already know that blockchain is a distributed transactional database that is shared across all the nodes participating in a network. And this is the main technical innovation of Bitcoin, and it actually acts as a public ledger for the transaction. So you will know that every node in the system has a full copy of the current chain, which contains every transaction ever executed. So every blockchain contains a hash of the previous block, all right? And then linking these two together. So the linked blocks will become a blockchain. And so this is the blockchain can be perceived as a 4-dimensional continuum that consider as 4 horizontal layers. And so that will include our transaction and blocks, consensus, all right? So all the nodes within the network reach our trusted DPoS consensus, and it will build the tools framework, and then each group has their own incentive, all right? So this is our solution. So the principle of our design, primarily, we want to have this platform, all right, EOC platform, which is aimed to become patient privacy-centered. So we are not going to violate any privacy. And this platform will become scalable spinal cord and nervous system for the PII. PII stands for personally identifiable information. As you will see, how we actually achieve this patient-centered privacy, we actually achieve this by doing the separation of duties, all right? When you have the separation of the duties, that will make sure each blockchain interact with a specific group of the healthcare facility nodes. At the same time, it can allow interaction with other blockchain when needed. So the interoperability is actually guaranteed. So this is our design principle. Moving on, we have, in this slide, we are showing you the root blockchain, all right? So the root blockchain is actually listed here, all right? So we have the two subchain here, all right? So one is the EMR. As you will see, this is a very, very important feature of the EOC blockchain design, all right? So this one, make sure the trusted time stamping, all right? Because every document or medical document is very critical if it can be kept track of the creation and the modification time. So this is very, very crucial for the business world. All right, so now we come into the consensus part. So what is the consensus? So this is a trusted delegated proof of stake. So we actually use the DPoS. So you will notice there are many consensus features. We are trying to combine a few DPoS and VRF. So the trusted DPoS has 4 phases. So in the next slide, I'm going to introduce you how we're going to implement the consensus. Right? So basically, in this, by doing this trusted DPoS, we are going to elect the candidates, and we are going to form a committee, and then eventually you are going to have a proposed block, and then you are going to have a finalized block. All right, so this slide shows you the consensus workflow, all right? So to start, you have a candidate election, all right? And then move on, you will have the committee voting, a random committee selected from the candidate using the VRF, right? So this is another consensus. And then once you have predefined blocks, so every voted committee node process will propose a new block, and it's going to broadcast to the network. So once the predefined is there, and then it will create the immutable block, and all these will be executed. So eventually, we are going to have this transaction, all right? The transaction will preserve the privacy of the patient. I'll just give you an example, okay, what happens in US when they are doing the pharmacy claims, all right? So data showing here is that in the calendar year 2017, this figure is actually based on the IQVIA, right? And so you will notice that the data actually reported are from a sample of retail pharmacy. It actually represents only 93% of the retail prescription drugs, right, at the state level. These data can be projected to represent 100% of the prescription drugs if we are going to implement the blockchain technology to consolidate all the data here. So there will be a huge difference. All right, so now let's look at one of the subchain, all right? So this is a very critical, and this one is what we call the EHR subchain. I know the font's a bit small, so let me try to explain to you. So on the top, we have those different types of data coming in, all right? So undergo those pre-processing, you are going to have our source data set, all right? So this serves as our source data lake. So once it has undergone some harmonization and also post-processing, it will be ready as the working data set. All right. So once the working data set is there, it's going to scrutinize by the data governance, and then it can be used as a data access layer. So all the clinical practitioners can access this data. So what they can use the data is that they can probably do some diabetes risk evaluation, right? But just do the data analysis. They are going to see whether the patient is highly risk to have the diabetes. All right. So I will just give you a contrast example. So what happens is that previously, right? Previously, the EMR worked well within a practice. They are limited because they do not easily travel outside the practice. All right. So they are very limited. They are very restrained. So in fact, if you notice that the patient's medical record might even have to be printed out and then have to be mailed to another provider to see it. So it is very, very troublesome. With all these, it will become very, very handy, so it will become very, very convenient. All right, so now I'm just going to give you an overview about the protocol we use. All right, so all these, the protocol we adopt is actually global standard. Just to highlight here, so we are actually based on the need-to-know basis. So a user must develop a criteria. So the user must have this criteria which set out which of the needs to see identifiable health information. All right, and then we have passed the control back to the user. All right, and then the consent must be obtained. All right, a patient written consent to disclose the health information must be obtained to guarantee the privacy and confidentiality. So this is a technology, all right? So we have innovated in terms of the identity management and also in terms of the access control, and also how we're going to have this DAP, EOCH, all right? It's one of the providers that need to share anonymize the patient data with researchers. I use this slide to give you an overview of the workflow. So if you look at this, it's not working. So the DAP workflow in the EOCH is like, let's say you have this, this DAP is one of the providers that need to share and anonymize the patient data with researchers. So what is going to happen is like this. So the clinician is going to send a data sharing request first to the DAP portal, and this request will initialize a block transaction in a ledger. And the DAP portal forward the request to the back-end server and get the researcher the public key first, and then return the requested key, and then log generated token, and the request to access the available data shared by the others and upload the private encryption key, and forward back the requested response and get all the token accessible to the researcher and return all the requested token, and then request to update the display. So in the first stage, 20% has been used in the marketing, all right? So out of the 20%, 50% is for the research and development, and then 30% is actually used for the pre-sale, and 40% is actually used to stimulate the early ecosystem. And this is our partners. As you will see that we have AI companies, we have hospital practitioners, we have health insurance companies. And this company is from Israel, and this is from German. All right, give you just a few examples how we can apply the EOCH in a real application. So if you look at the slides, we do have these applications such as the personal health tracking, or precision medicine, telemedicine, P2P healthcare data market. And let me just highlight one case. One is this personal health tracking. So nowadays, you will notice that patients will be able to combine previously scattered medical record, right? So now it can come, all these data can be collected through wearable devices. With this complete record, control of the medical history, the patients will be able to accurately and rapidly access and share personal medical information during the clinical care. So they are going to manage their personal health care better. And so this is one of the applications. Another application I'm going to zoom into is this social network service. All right? So the social network service, EOC will create a communities, especially for some patients with very rare diseases. So patients who must fight the same disease can benefit from sharing the information, and they are going to establish a relationship. In addition, the medical providers and researchers who are interested in the disease can also naturally engage with the community and enriching the experience of fighting the disease. So this is our roadmap. We have started 2 years back, right? August. So the project has kicked start by using the idea of sharing every healthcare information based on blockchain. And then last year, November, we have our first healthcare information sharing standards version 1 released. And then this year, May, we have our first white paper released. If you need a copy, you can also approach me. And then for this next month, we have our ERC20 token distribution, ICA launched. And then in this December, we are going to have a consensus model for the healthcare data generation version 1. And then next year, April, our root chain version 1 will be formally released. Other subchain will start to test. Lastly, so in 2020 May, we are going to have the healthcare trading platform version 1 released. I'm coming to the very end of the presentation. All right, so this is our team. We have those blockchain experts, and some are from Israel, and some are from Singapore. And this is our CMO, and he's sitting right here. He can also answer some questions you may have. And some advisory board professor, Seng Ham. And then we have Daniel and Qiang Zhen. So with this, I'm going to thank you for your attention, and we will answer any questions you may have.